Hey everyone, Dr. Frunkey here with a new knife comparison. This one is going to be interesting because I'm going to compare a stock Brous blade to a modified Brous blade. Now, for those of you that are following my channel, you'll know that a couple of weeks ago I published a video where I basically said the Brous Dynamic here and the XR1 over here had a whole lot of flaws, and they probably weren't worth buying, especially at the price points that they're being sold at right now. And so a lot of folks reached out to me. Some people got more than just a little mean and said that I was a fool and that I needed to try some stock Brous knives. So my good buddy Tony, he reached out to me and he said, hey man, I've got a couple of Brouses. Why don't I go ahead and send them your way so that you can compare? I actually have a dynamic, so you can compare that. And I'll send you my Insight as well. This is the Turpin collaboration Insight right here. So I appreciate that he was able to send these knives along so that we can get a better idea of maybe the differences that occurred during the modification process, and maybe get a better idea of what's going on with Brous blades. So the problems that I had with the dynamic, we'll just start there, is that the detent is ridiculously weak, and it's very difficult to flip the knife. The action is also not ideal. I think that part of the problem with the action has to do with the fact that there's a little bit of the acid etch right near the detent ball track. Now, it's not right there, and over time, that should really wear in. It's just, it really hasn't done that very well, and the action remains relatively poor. I'm able to flip it open myself because I know how to flip a knife, but the action is extremely unsatisfying, and I don't really like it that much. Now, let's see what we're working with on a stock dynamic here. So you can see what this knife looks like from the factory here. Right away, the detent is much stronger. So it would be a bit unusual for the detent to become so poor after a simple modification like this. I know that my buddy Fanatic has done quite a few knives. Right now I have the VDK War Admiral here. I just sent the Riot Knives Steelcraft Bodega back to him, and that one also had perfect detent after the modification. My 0392 had perfect detent after the modification. So it would be strange to me that the detent would become significantly weaker. Now, is it because the blade has been acid etched? I don't really know. Again, that detent ball track has sort of been affected, not in a huge way, but certainly right there at the end of the ball track, there may be a little bit of interference going on there. I just think that the action overall is just not that excellent, though, because after I open this knife, the detent is stronger. It will open. It still has a rather unsatisfying opening sound. And then when I go to close it, it requires a good amount of shaking. Now, it's a relatively smaller blade, but you can feel sort of a grittiness to the action even when you're just closing it like this. There's a jumpiness, there's kind of it's not the smoothest knife I've ever held. And a lot of folks sort of praise the smoothness of Brous blades. And, you know, I'm just not really seeing it here too much. I still have to jiggle it pretty hard to close it there. I will say the detent is significantly improved on this particular one. What I was trying to say is that I can't imagine that the detent changed so much during this modification that perhaps that's a quality control thing. Let me know if you've had a variation, if you've had a weak detent or not weak detent. Again, I'm just learning here. I'm not trying to bash any particular company. I have no stock in bashing somebody. It's not my goal. I'm just curious about knives, and I'm curious that this maker that's so popular, you know, doesn't seem to have the quality that I was hoping for. It still has that horrible clip that's recessed into the knife, so it makes it hard to get in and out of the pocket, and it's also very thin. A lot of folks have told me that there have been a lot of broken Brous clips out there. So let's go ahead and talk a minute about the Insight here. This is a much smaller knife, something that I think is worth comparing to the XR1 over here. Both of these knives actually have pretty snappy detent, and so happy with that for sure. This one has pretty nice detent. Flies out of the handle really well. This one's a bit smoother, but still, look at that right there. No matter how hard I shake that thing, it doesn't really want to go closed. And so, you know, that's a little bit disappointing to me. Not really sure why that is, but these are not nearly as smooth as sort of people had led me to believe that they would be. So while I think that the stock models may be better, certainly there's an improvement here in the stock dynamic over the modified dynamic. I can't really say exactly where something went wrong here. My buddy Fanatic is a good guy. He does a great job modifying these knives. I've seen him do some great work. I'm not going to bash either person here. I'm just trying to find out, try to do sort of a semi-objective look at these knives from a stock to a modified form and see what happens. So what I can tell you is that certainly in stock form, these Brous knives are better, okay? They're smoother, the detent is better, and, you know, that's that. What I can tell you also is that the action is not nearly as smooth as people made them out to be. This knife still has an extremely uncomfortable lock bar right there that's rather sharp. And, you know, I'm just not really a huge fan of the styling. That's just my preference right there. But these are an improvement over the modified knives. I want this to be an open discussion, guys. I have had very, very mixed reviews on Brous blades. I appreciate that some of their knives are pretty good. I'm excited about a few of them, but I can't really get behind them right now. And after experiencing even all 4 of these knives, my opinion is not that strong. So convince me otherwise. Tell me your experience with Brous knives and be honest down below. Let's not be afraid here. What we need to do is recognize that there are some amazing knives coming out right now, and that, you know, even from China, some of these knives are just incredibly smooth and perfect. And we need to recognize what's good and what's not so good, because we're paying a premium for these American-made knives. But if they're junk, then they're junk, and we need to openly discuss this. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. This is a very informal video, just me showing that there is certainly a difference here between stock and modified. But I want to open the floor here to everyone else and have you engaged in a conversation and talk about Brous blades specifically and your experience with them. If you think that they're great, if you don't think that they're great, and let's figure it out from there. I appreciate you guys watching. This is Dr. Frunkey saying take care.